All right, so today we're diving into Gospel Lakia's article, Winter is Coming.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, published just a couple days ago, actually, on December 27th, 2024.
Okay.
And Lakia really kind of paints this stark picture of what he calls a spiritual winter.
Hmm.
And he's basically issuing this call to action to readers to stoke their inner fire.
Yeah.
From the title alone, I was intrigued, and the way Lakia uses all these historical references and these analogies really drew me in.
Yeah, it's that blend of like vivid imagery with insightful analysis
Right?
that makes it so compelling,
Hmm.
you know? And he starts off by taking us to the 2024 Olympic Marathon,
Okay.
focusing on the Italian runner Yoav Feniel.
Right. Faniel's early lead had everybody, on the edge of their seats.
Yeah.
But then, as Lakia points out, he just kind of faded.
Right.
Just like a lot of us do when it comes to, the spiritual race of life.
That's true.
Oh, so?
He connects this to the Apostle Paul's words in 1 Corinthians,
Okay.
where Paul compares spiritual growth to an athlete training for competition.
Right.
And, the key takeaway here is that discipline and purpose,
Mm-hmm.
they're not just for marathon runners,
Right.
but they're essential for anyone striving towards a goal,
Right.
especially a spiritual one.
It really makes you think, what would it look like to apply that same level of dedication to our own lives,
Yeah.
even outside of, just a strictly religious context?
Mm-hmm.
Are we truly running the race with intention and focus?
Yeah. Are we just going through the motions?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a cool question we're pondering for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
And Lakia, he doesn't stop there.
Okay.
He goes on to argue that we all have a unique talent,
Okay.
a specific purpose that we're meant to fulfill.
This is where that quote from Ephesians comes in, right?
Exactly.
The one about how God gives different gifts to people for the betterment of the community.
Exactly.
Hey.
And Lakia takes it a step further,
All right.
criticizing what he calls religious boondoggling.
Religious boondoggling.
Yeah. Have you ever felt like you were stuck in a role that didn't quite fit?
Oh.
Like you weren't using your true talents and strengths?
Absolutely. I think we've all experienced that feeling of being a square peg trying to fit into a round hole at some point.
Yeah. And Lakia argues that this boondoggling can even happen within a religious context,
Mm-hmm.
where people might be, going through the motions of religious activity
Right.
without truly aligning with their purpose.
Yeah.
It's as if they're neglecting their own unique contribution to the bigger picture.
So instead of trying to force ourselves into roles that don't suit us,
Right.
we should be seeking out those areas where our talents can truly shine and make a meaningful impact.
Mm,
That's a powerful idea.
it is. And it leads us to the central metaphor of Lakia's piece, the impending winter.
Okay, so this is where the article takes a darker turn.
Yeah.
Lakia describes this winter as a time of spiritual decline,
Mm-hmm.
almost like a creeping coldness settling over the world.
It's a sue.
He uses such vivid imagery,
Yeah.
broken bodies of pilgrims struggling through the cold, a church seemingly oblivious to the looming danger.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast to the excitement of that marathon analogy.
Right.
And to drive home the seriousness of this winter, Lakia brings in scripture from 6 Timothy and Matthew,
Okay.
both of which talk about the last days and the love of many growing cold.
Right. It's definitely a chilling thought.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder what factors are contributing to this spiritual decline.
Yeah, what's causing this coldness to spread?
Right.
Lakia points to several issues,
Okay.
and one that really stands out is this lack of genuine love and unity.
Okay.
He argues that many people have become more focused on outward appearances and empty rituals
Right.
than on cultivating true compassion and connection.
So it's like going through the motions of faith without any real heart behind it.
Precisely.
Mm.
And he uses a quote from G. Michael Hoff's novel, Those Who Remain, to illustrate this point.
Okay.
The quote says, "Strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times."
I see where he's going with this. It's like a cycle of complacency where comfort and ease can lead to a weakening of our resolve, both individually and collectively.
Exactly. And Lakia connects this quote to the state of the modern church,
Okay.
suggesting that perhaps it's become too comfortable, too focused on maintaining its structures and traditions,
Right.
and has lost sight of its true mission.
So this winter is a result of the church losing its fire, its passion, its purpose.
You could say that, and it's a challenging thought for all of us to consider whether we identify as religious or not.
Mm-hmm.
Are we truly living out our values in a way that brings warmth and light to the world?
Yeah.
Or have we become complacent, contributing to the very coldness Lakia warns against?
Right.
Welcome back to our deep dive into gospel. Lakia's Winter is Coming.
Yeah, we left off with that unsettling image of a spiritual winter kind of descending, a
Sure.
chilling consequence of complacency and misplaced priorities.
Right.
You know what struck me even more was Lycia's call to action. Stoke your inner fire. It's a powerful phrase, but I gotta admit, it feels a bit abstract.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that actually look like in practice?
Right.
What are some tangible steps we can take?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's a deeply personal call
Mm-hmm.
that's going to manifest differently for each individual.
Right.
It's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Okay.
But Lakia does offer some guiding principles.
Like what?
He talks about the importance of honest self-reflection,
Okay.
acknowledging our shortcomings,
Okay.
and seeking renewal through a deeper connection to something greater than ourselves.
So it's not about ignoring the problem or pretending everything is fine.
Right.
It's about taking a hard look in the mirror and being honest about where we've fallen short.
Exactly. And that can be a difficult process.
Yeah.
It requires humility and a willingness to confront our own complacency
Right.
or maybe even hypocrisy.
Right.
In fact, Lakia doesn't shy away from using that word.
Yeah, he definitely calls out those who claim to be followers but aren't truly living out their beliefs.
Exactly. He draws a sharp contrast between outward religious practices and genuine inner transformation.
Okay.
One passage that really stood out to me was his comparison of some people's hearts to being infested with worms
Wow.
while they sing hymns.
That's...
It's a vivid and perhaps unsettling image
Yeah.
that highlights the disconnect he sees between action and belief.
So how do we bridge that disconnect?
Right.
Is it simply a matter of willpower?
Mm-hmm.
Can we just decide to be more loving and compassionate?
That's a great question. And I think Lakia would say it's more nuanced than just willpower.
Okay.
He suggests tapping into a source of strength and renewal outside of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
He uses the phrase, waiting upon the Lord, drawing from the book of Isaiah.
Right. There's that incredible passage.
Yeah.
But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint.
Such a powerful image of
Right,
resilience and hope.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to clarify what waiting upon the Lord actually means in this context.
Right.
It's not about passively sitting back and waiting for something to happen.
Right.
It's about actively seeking renewal,
Mm-hmm.
creating space for reflection,
Okay.
listening for guidance, and allowing ourselves to be filled with a sense of purpose and direction.
So it's more about actively aligning ourselves with that source of strength
Yeah.
and letting it guide our actions.
Precisely. And this ties back to his earlier points about discipline and purpose.
Okay.
It's about consciously choosing to prioritize our spiritual growth, however we define that,
Mm-hmm.
and then letting that growth fuel our engagement with the world.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But if this winter is as widespread as Lakia suggests, individual action can only go so far, right?
Mm-hmm.
What about the role of institutions, particularly the church, in all of this?
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
And Lakia doesn't hesitate to critique the church's complacency and its focus on outward appearances over genuine transformation.
Right.
He seems to be calling for a revival within the church itself,
Mm-hmm.
a shaking up of the status quo.
Yeah, he's pretty direct about that,
Yeah.
saying that the church has become too comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
too focused on maintaining its structures and traditions instead of truly living out its mission in the world.
And he uses that quote from G. Michael Hoth's novel, Those Who Remain, to highlight this.
Right.
Strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times.
Yeah.
He seems to suggest that the church has, in a sense, become weakened by its own success.
So it's lost its edge, that sense of urgency and purpose that fueled its initial growth and impact.
That's one way to interpret it. And if the church itself is part of the problem,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean for the solution?
Right.
What needs to change?
Yeah.
These are some of the questions Lakia raises without necessarily providing concrete answers.
That's true. He doesn't offer a step-by-step guide for institutional reform. But he does hint at the direction the shift needs to take.
Yeah.
He talks about rediscovering core values like love, compassion, and service.
And he emphasizes a willingness to challenge injustice,
Right.
a moving away from self-preservation and towards a more active outward-facing expression of faith.
So it's like a call for the church to become less focused on itself and more focused on the needs of the world around it.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that while Lakia uses religious language and draws from Scripture,
Mm-hmm.
His message has implications that extend far beyond organized religion.
So you're saying his message can resonate with anyone regardless of their religious beliefs?
Absolutely. Yeah. His call to stoke our inner fire can speak to anyone who feels a sense of purpose
Right.
or a longing for something more meaningful in their lives.
Yeah.
It's about connecting with that inner spark, that drive to make a positive impact on the world.
That's a powerful point. It takes the conversation beyond a purely religious context
Right.
and makes it relevant to a much wider audience.
Mm.
But there's still one big question Lakia leaves unanswered.
And that is?
How long will this winter last? He paints this vivid picture of spiritual decline, but he doesn't offer much insight into how or when it might end, does he?
Well, that's where we'll pick up in the final part of our deep dive. Stay tuned as we explore that very question and unpack the implications of Lakia's silence on the matter.
So welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Pit. Lakia's Winter is Coming.
Yeah.
We've journeyed through his powerful analogies and explored the causes and consequences of this spiritual winter.
Right.
And grappled with this call to action to stoke our inner fire.
Yeah.
But, as we wrap up,
Yeah.
I keep coming back to that unanswered question. How long will this winter actually last?
Yeah.
Like, Lakia doesn't give us a timeline, does he?
No, he doesn't.
Okay.
And I think that's a deliberate choice on his part.
Okay.
It's almost as if he's turning the question back on us,
Mm-hmm.
Prompting us to consider whether the duration of this winter
Okay.
might actually depend on us,
Okay.
on our collective actions and choices.
That's a powerful thought and a little daunting, if I'm being honest.
Right.
It's like he's saying the end isn't predetermined.
Yeah.
It's up to us to create the conditions for a thaw.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It shifts the focus from passive observation
Right.
to active participation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about waiting for the winter to pass.
Okay.
It's about taking responsibility
Right.
for bringing about spring.
So what will it take?
Yeah.
What will bring about the end of this winter?
Well, Lakia doesn't offer a specific roadmap,
Okay.
but he does leave us with some compelling clues.
Okay.
He talks about the importance of unity,
Mm.
of genuine love,
Right.
of rediscovering our purpose and using our talents to make a difference in our communities.
He also emphasizes the need for revitalization within the church,
Right.
urging a return to its core values. Service, compassion, and a willingness to challenge injustice.
It seems like ending this winter requires a multifaceted approach. It's not just about individual actions.
Right.
It's about a collective shift in consciousness,
Okay.
a reawakening to our shared humanity and interconnectedness.
That makes sense, but it also feels like a monumental task.
Sure.
Where do we even begin?
Perhaps Lakia would say we begin right where we are
Okay.
by stoking our inner fire.
Right.
He challenges us to reconnect with that source of passion and purpose that drives us to make a positive impact on the world.
It's about finding that spark within ourselves and letting it illuminate the path forward, even when things feel dark and uncertain.
And it's about remembering that we're not alone in this journey.
Right.
There are countless others who share that same spark,
Mm-hmm.
who are also striving to create a warmer, more compassionate world.
Right.
We can draw strength and inspiration from each other,
Mm.
knowing that our collective efforts, however small they may seem, can contribute to a larger movement toward change.
That's a beautiful thought. It's a reminder that even in the midst of a spiritual winter, there's always hope, always the potential for renewal and transformation.
Absolutely. And ultimately, that's Lakia's most powerful message.
Mm-hmm.
We have the power to change the course of history,
Right.
to usher in a new season of warmth and light.
Okay.
But it starts with each of us taking responsibility for our own growth
Right.
and then using that growth to make a difference in the world around us.
This deep dive has been a powerful reminder that we're not just passive observers of the world around us.
Right.
We are active participants, and our choices matter.
As we conclude our exploration of Gospel Lakia's Winter is Coming,
Mm-hmm.
we want to leave you with one final question to ponder. What will you do to stoke your inner fire
Right.
and help bring about the end of this winter?
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes.
We hope it sparked some reflection and inspired you to action.
Until next time, keep those inner fires burning.